Welcome to the Marketing Revolution Podcast. This is the underground movement of savage marketers from all over the world. We are not Fortune 500 companies. We are real entrepreneurs with real businesses that have one major thing in mind: to set goals and devour them daily. Because we understand everyone wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey, what's up, everybody? John Hiley here with another Savage Sunday sermon. I want to talk about something that I've been interested in for a long time. Been doing quite a bit of research. I'm actually preparing to write my second book now. Yep, you guys heard it. I'm going to maintain the momentum and continue writing. But the second book is going to be very, very deep in a lot of not only spiritual principles, but just life principles in general, the principles of wealth creation, just in general, the principle of being the best individual that you can absolutely be. And I was very, very intrigued by the quote in the Bible that the meek will inherit the earth. And it made me kind of look out, and I ended up looking at the Webster's Dictionary of Meek, and it just did not sound like the people that would actually inherit the earth. So I'm reading about it. It's talking about people that are very, very weak and almost individuals who are very, very submissive, meaning that if like an authoritarian figure comes in, they would just submit. They would just give up. And it just did not seem as if that was the type of person that would inherit the earth. So I started doing a little bit of research on it, and then I've come to find out that meek had a totally different meaning back in the biblical days, the days of Jesus Christ. Meek had a completely different meaning than it does today. Essentially, there's two components to this I want to talk about. The very first component that I want to talk about is your will versus like the will of God, okay? And then the second component that I want to talk about is controlled power, okay? Because I believe the true individuals who were meek, as if you want to reference that, they talked about Jesus Christ being very meek, but he had a massive amount of power that he actually had under control. So it's not that he was a weak person by any means. When he was on the cross, they were talking about that he could literally rain down, angels of heaven to just destroy everybody if he wanted to, but he decided not to because he put everybody else's will ahead of his own. So he may have had his own will. He had his own way of thought and the way that he wanted to see his life transform, but he's hanging there on the cross. He knew that it was his time, and he was going to submit his will and do it for everybody. That's meekness, okay? That's not weakness. So it's funny, they rhyme. So we got meek and we got weak. And a meek individual in them times, and even in these times, if you look at it from a biblical standpoint, is not a weak individual. It's a very powerful individual that has their power under their own control. And so that was very, very interesting, and I actually just jumped into the second component. So I'll take a step back to the very first component. Sorry, guys. You know me, when I get on a tangent and I get talking about something, it just kind of flows and I roll. So that's the second thing I want to talk about, but I talked about it first. But stepping back to the very first thing that I brought up is submitting your will for that of the will of God. I believe that that's the highest level of meekness. And what I mean by this is not stopping everything and just allowing God's voice to come into your mind and tell you what to do and all this kind of stuff, right? I do believe that we have something inside of us called our conscience, and that's our moral code, and that's our connection to God, truth, what we know is right and wrong. I do believe that we need to be in a very strong connection with our conscience. And that being said, though, when things do not go as aligned, right? When your plan starts to crumble and things do not happen in the way that you sought out to make them happen, you've got to step back and you've got to realize that there's something bigger and better in the future. You've got to realize that God has a bigger plan for you. He's working something out that you may not even be able to see at this moment. And you've got to be thankful in that moment that whatever happened, whatever derailed your plan, whatever changed the trajectory of where you were going, that it has been derailed because God has something better for you. That is submission to God's plan above and beyond yours, right? So there's so many times in the past that I looked at terrible things happened to me. And many of you guys know I got the shit beat out of me by the police a couple of years ago. And I was going down a very slippery slope. Something you'll learn about me. I hope that I stay in the spiritual connection I have today with God, but throughout my life, I've had it. It's disappeared. I've had it. It's disappeared. And I was in a time where it disappeared. Right? I was living the exact opposite of what I am today. I was under the influence of a drug, and it took over my life, and I let it hold me in bondage for a few years. And at the time, it did seem terrible that, I was facing all these charges, got the shit beat out of me. I'm in jail. My wife's got to come pick me up. But something happened to me during that time where I just gave up. I said, you know what, God? I said, you've given me a fucking really big sign right here that I don't need to be drinking. It's not something that's good for me. It's terrible for me, actually. And you've given me this massive sign because I'm so stubborn and I'm so pig-headed that I wouldn't have listened to anything other than a very violent attack that I had, or that I went through, this very violent incident that I went through, and I came out of it. And every single moment after that, I just submitted my will to God. I said, you know what? Wherever this goes, I know that you're taking me in the right direction. I know that you're pulling me in the right direction. And come to find out, that is meekness, and that is who are to inherit the earth. And I truly believe, because they talk about God establishing his kingdom on earth, what better kingdom to be in than a bunch of individuals that are just trusting in God? That, for instance, somebody's driving to work and they get caught in a traffic jam, right? Instead of saying, fuck beating on the wheel, swerving through traffic, creating danger for everybody, being in that of a insane emotion that's taking you over, where you're angry, mad, you're upset, you're trying to impose your will on the earth or on the situation, that you just step back and you say, thank you, God, for putting me in this traffic jam, because I know there might have been an accident right up the road that you're saving me from at this moment. Something like you're moving me in this coordinates, because wherever I'm going, whatever time I get there, everything you are doing, you're aligning just perfectly for me all of the time. And that's when we're in full connection with God's plan, is when we give up our own will over what it is. We give up establishing our own will. Now, I'm not telling you to stop making a plan, because I believe all that shit is scribed on your heart, right? I'm not telling you to stop making a plan. I'm telling you to start making the plan that God intended you to have, right? Start making that fucking plan, and then submit your will to God. Let him, if my wife was here, she would say her, unfold all of these things for you, and trust and walk with faith and fucking work, man. Work. Okay? It's the idle man that lives in the devil's workshop, right? Idle time is the devil's workshop. So you got to step out of that. You got to work. We were meant to connect our spirit with our mind. We were meant to develop our intellect with our spirit and mind, and then our mind is to impose our will on our body. Okay? Some people stay in the spirit. Some people just stay in the mind, and they don't connect with the spirit, so they live a miserable life. Some people just stay in the spirit, so they live a kind of a miserable life, because they're not imposing their spirit's will on their body to make the things happen that their spirit is yearning for. Okay? So this is like a threefold thing, where you're literally taking and you're connecting to your spirit, and you're moving that towards your mind, your intellect, sharpening your intellect, doing the fucking work, man. Doing the work where you can take your mind and begin to oppose your spirit's will on your body, which is that I believe to be the will of what God had given you, okay? And then accept when your path changes, then you'll be truly meek. And man, that's I just couldn't imagine what our world would look like if people totally understood these words that I'm talking about today, and they begin stepping into full consciousness connection with that of their, like, again, their consciousness, right? They're conscious, the thing inside of us that's telling us what's right or wrong, to go left or right, to trust in our heart and our gut. That's why, man, you guys know me. I consult, and I do believe in mentorship because them are people that I want to learn from. I always want to learn from a teacher. But to be honest with you, like anything anybody tells me, I make that final decision on whether I want to accept it as my personal truth, right? Like somebody can tell me to do this, this, and this. And if there's something inside of me that it doesn't feel right for me, I will do what I will do literally what I feel is right to do inside. I try to anyway. I don't think it's very hard to be in full connection to that. It would be a fucking beautiful world if everybody was in full connection to that. That means you are the most authentic version of yourself all the time. I just believe that there's so many little things that can stray us out of that full connection. You can have a bad day, but the important thing is that you have this understanding, this deeper knowledge that you can continue to come back to, and you can continue to practice, and you can continue to harness, and you can continue to work through, in that pursuit of excellence. And when I say the pursuit of excellence, this is another thing that I've been studying. It's just, man, it's just been so great, right? Is that so many people, they're in the pursuit of excellence, or let's just say the pursuit of greatness, right? So people are in the pursuit of greatness, yet they don't do common things great. So, if you're in the pursuit of greatness, start doing common things great. So like the little shit, the stuff around your house, start being a great father, start being a great husband, or try your hardest. Like start, if somebody puts one of them piece of shit IKEA things in front of you and you got to build that thing, which I'm going to have to here soon because I'm going to be building my wife another boot room. Like instead of being pissed off, like do it great, right? Like try to be great in everything that you do in the very small stuff, right? And it'll take a while, but people will see that greatness in you. You don't have to tell anybody you're great. When you do every little thing in a great way and you put your heart and your soul, you prepare it as if you're preparing that shit for God. You know what I mean? And you do it, you put your best, you put your heart and your soul in it. All these little things will accumulate, and people around you, your neighbors will start seeing you as, man, that person is like, this is the person I want to consult with. This is the person I want to talk to, because they will begin to see that, right? And your actions, and that is your path to greatness. One of the things I was reminded is that like Abraham Lincoln, like if he would have waited to become great when he won the presidency, and stepped into the White House, he wouldn't have been a great president. Abraham Lincoln was a great backwoods lawyer, and the people around him and his community seen him as that. He was great at what he was doing. People seen him as great before he became the president of the United States of America, and he carried that greatness into his office. So the common things that he was doing, his life, people seen that inside of him. And from there, he became a backwoods lawyer. Who the fuck knows what backwoods looked like back then? I mean, I could imagine it was really fucking backwoods back then. Like, I know what backwoods looks like now, but backwoods back then, he was a backwoods lawyer. People in his community considered him great, and he went to the highest power in the fucking world at that point. He stepped into the highest point of power to rule the largest empire in the world. He didn't wait till he got there to become great. He started becoming great in everything that he is doing today. So whatever you do right now, you're going to carry that into the next thing. I don't give a shit if you're listening to this and you're dropping French fries into a McDonald's fryer. Like, you start doing that shit great, okay? With the mindset of advancement, okay? With the mindset of advancing to the next level, the next thing, right? Envision yourself owning that motherfucker, and one day you will if you do every little thing in a great way. So anyhow, y'all, that's my Savage Sunday sermon. It's what I've been into. I just started 75 Hard recently. I'm on day 4. So when I walk, I listen to audiobooks. I've been listening to a lot of Wallace Waddles. And some of you guys know he wrote The Science of Getting Rich. You guys haven't listened to that, listen to that book. But I'm getting prepared to write my next book. And I'm pretty fucking sure, well, I'm going to tell you guys next time. I'm not going to share the title of the book yet, but I'm pretty sure that I've got the title of it. I know the direction where it's going. I know where it's coming from in my heart. I believe that my next book is going to be the message that the world has to hear to move from where we are today in this confusion, this hate, this pain, to where we need to move tomorrow to become a better world. So anyhow, y'all, I appreciate you guys. And as usual, I'm going to see you on the next one.